Hi everyone, this is Gabrielle.
The least favorite.
No, Amy's joking.
Amy is now excommunicated from the family. Anyway, we're gonna ask Grammy some questions about our ancestry. So, what part of Poland did your parents and Grandpa Joe's parents come from?
Grandma came from near the German border, and that's why she worked in Germany from a young girl on. That's where she learned the German language, and that's where she earned her money for her passage to the United States.
And what was her name?
Grandpa came from the Russian part, up like the Russian border.
These are your parents.
Mm-hmm.
And their names were Catherine and Jacob.
No.
No,
that
that's
was
the
the
other
other
one, yeah.
What
This
was
is Victoria and John.
Victoria and John.
And do you know anything about their towns, where they came from, or the landscape?
Grandma was kind of a boyish. She would fish with her dad. She would do everything with her dad. She was not the feminine one. She liked to do animal things, and she said fish was a big thing. They had an ice pond where they would have fish, and apparently that was a cheap meal, and it was a good meal. So they would go with her dad too. And her dad was like a mayor of the town. He done everything, recording the births, the deaths. And she had another sister, Victoria. How they both got two Victorias, Grandma doesn't know. But Grandma was short and a little bit on the heavier side, so she was the bigger Victoria. And her other sister was the thinner and taller. So it was the big Victoria and the little Victoria.
I think we could only handle one Victoria.
Hi, Tori.
Hi, Tori.
Anyway, and do you know anything about the place where Grandpa Joe's parents came from?
No, I really don't know anything too much about that. Because
Okay.
great-grandma Gabrielle was an orphan at a very young age. And her father remarried, and her stepmother was a bad stepmother. And at an early age, she was able to come to the States. And her marriage was sort of planned, because great-grandpa Jacob, he was like 10 years older than Grandma Gabrielle. And
So they both got married in Poland now and came over together?
no, they didn't come together.
No.
She came over as a very young girl with one of her aunts or cousins or whatever. And they, took care of her, because you had to have a sponsor to come to the States.
Yeah.
You had to have somebody sponsor you, and that. So she came with a cousin or an aunt. I really don't know. We never got into that too much.
Did they come through Ellis Island? Would we
Yes,
find them
yes. Yeah, they're listed in Ellis
I think
Island.
I did find them
What
on
year?
Ellis Island.
What year?
I have
We
no
don't know.
idea. I have no idea.
Would have been early,
Yeah.
1900s.
It's marked somewhere.
No, she was a very, very young girl, so she had a very, very tough life, with her stepmother and everything else, and of course, then she married Grandpa and had the farm and had all those children, and then her one daughter, Yaj, had a lung disease and she died early. And then they had Michael who was killed, so she had two very bad tragedies in her life. And that's a great, great woman, very smart. She could make a meal out of nothing. She put everything together, and her meals were good.
Okay. So what did your parents do on a daily basis? What were their jobs or responsibilities?
Well, Grandpa was the breadwinner, and Grandma took care of the house. Meal on the table, and clothes had to be washed, and kids ready for school, and Grandma done a little sewing too. She did sew.
They always want a big family.
I don't know if they wanted a big family, but that's the way it happened.
What were the differences in the Polish language between Grandpa's side of the family and your side?
The dialect is different. It was different. Grandpa, your grandpa always said to Grandma, "You're the low class. We are the high class." Because Grandma's a lot of slang in Grandma's vocabulary. Where Grandpa, their vocabulary was up a notch or two.
Proper?
But you talk to each other.
Oh, you could understand. There's no, but.
And did you sometimes?
There was slang, more slang in Grandma's, where Grandpa's there was not slang.
Did you sometimes speak Polish so that your sons wouldn't know what you were saying?
Yeah, we would say, but they caught on. I mean, like, of course, the black always was a thorn, and especially when Grandpa worked at the warehouse, they would come right in and steal right off their big doors, and they had all their stuff there, and they would come in. And so Grandpa didn't really have a lot of love, so when he'd talk, he'd say chudnik. And of course, I guess you kids know what chudnik is. That is black. So then our kids, they caught on. They knew what that was. So,
Just right there in the open, that would happen.
yeah, and it's a...
Funny, in how many years things haven't changed
And
too much.
it said, don't chase them, let them go. It's not worth, you don't know what they have, gun or whatever. And then actually after that, it put a grate, and you could not get in. You'd have to have, what are you here? What's your business? What do you want?
Wow.
And otherwise they would, because you just, and they had Ed had a big German Shepherd dog, but that didn't stop anything. So there was things like that. But Grandpa he could speak, write in Polish. Auntie Anna and Uncle Marty could too. Well, us younger kids never done that. Because by the time we went to the Catholic school, they did not teach the Polish.
Did you teach Polish to your 3 kids, going just like little words? Or
No,
did you
just
bother
would
with
be
it?
just that, because we really, Grandpa and I didn't speak it,
Because when Pope John Paul II became Pope, Dad said everyone around here tried
Oh
to
my
learn
God.
Polish, and that was a
Well,
big
they
deal.
tried to, but it's too late. There's Polish language is a very, very
yeah.
difficult language.
Yeah.
It's not an easy language to learn because there's so many dots and an A would sound different with a little,
With the
so it's
How do you say kubera?
I
in
was gonna say,
Polish?
tell them how you say Cabera.
Subeta.
Super.
And nobody knows that,
No.
Once in a while, you'll hear somebody come up with that, then you know that,
Yeah.
But as a rule, it's always Cabero.
Does our last name have any accents in it? Is it spelled differently in the Polish language?
No, very same. The very, very same.
What does it mean?
I don't think there is any different meaning. I know when Aunt Julie and Grandpa went to school, they told them it's a Spanish name.
I've been told that too. And when
Yeah.
I was in Argentina, I was hounded about that too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, there was, I don't know if we have the book, but it was a book, and it was a Michael Cabera, and he was a thief, a murderer, and everything else. And it was Spanish. He was Spaniard. But Grandpa had that book for the longest time. I don't know if it's still up or whatever happened to it, but their teachers all said that is a Spanish name.
What about your maiden name? Is Smarts pronounced differently?
No, well, yeah, it would be. It would be Smarts. But nobody does it. They all Smarts. They do it with a TZ, and where it's a DZ. But they was Smart.
Was our name changed at all?
Never, ever.
Because I know a lot of people who came through Ellis Island had to change their names.
No, years back, like my father and Grandpa Jacob would never ever change the names. And no, that's the way it was. That was their heritage, and they stayed with it. The SKIs, where Grandma came from near the German border, there weren't any. And where Grandpa, the Russian border, there were no SKIs. It would be SKY maybe, but not SKI. So it was a different different.
Okay.
We joke around a lot that Kubera is one of 5 Polish names that does not end in ski.
Yeah.
Well, the Italians all end with a vowel, and that's why when we went to Italy, we were with a group, and hey, you're paisanos, Cabera. No, it's a Polish name. No, I can't be. Ends in an A.
That's what Steve always says to me. He says, "You can't be Polish. You're Italian."
Yeah,
See, everyone always thought we had a
Oh, that's
Spanish
good.
name.
yeah.
Grandma, when did you go to Italy?
The year before Grandpa died in '84.
What prompted that trip?
It was a promotional through work.
Okay. So this was before my parents got married.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you see?
Rome, of course, was big. I didn't care for Rome. I loved Florence. Florence was beautiful. And we missed seeing the Pope because you had to be there. There was just certain days that the Pope would be out. And by the time we got there, it was already past that time. So, and see the gondolas and all that. It was an experience. But Florence is just beautiful. Rome, I didn't like. We're on the bus. The men are working out there. They're facing you and they're urinating right in your face. And they're dirty. To me, Rome was dirty.
What else did you think about just the people or the culture while you were there, other than that?
They're very nice people. They are nice people. And but I didn't think they were clean. Even their bathrooms, I didn't think were clean. The public bathrooms were, maybe they couldn't keep them cleaner and that, but their food was different. The spaghetti was not like we have. It's not a lot of sauce. It's a little bit of sauce, and their coffee is horrible. Of course, wine with everything. Morning, noon, and night is wine. And went to a big castle there. It was nice to see. It was an experience.
How long were you there?
5 days.
It's a good amount of time.
That's enough time.
Okay, kind of drifting back to the answer.
Sorry.
No, that was a good little tangent. What year did your parents and Grandpa Joe's parents come over to America?
That I don't
You
really
don't
know. Mm-mm.
Do you know?
We could play that. Find out. Gail would know. Gail would know what
Okay.
year they came in.
Well, do you know why they decided to leave Poland?
Grandma Victoria, her father said, there is nothing in this country for you, and it's not going to. I don't want you raising a family, getting married here. I want you to go to a better land. So she didn't want to go. She fought it.
Was this after World War One, or
Before.
Before World War One. Okay.
And she didn't want to leave the homeland. But her father made her and her sister. And Grandma was very good with figures. Math was her thing. So when you came in, then you had different tests that you had to pass. And Grandma, her math, she was playing the game. I want to go back. And so her sister, you can't do that because then I'll be here alone. So then Grandma did pass her test. And
Did they speak English when they came at all? None.
no, they didn't even know what a banana was. They got a banana on the boat. And
What am I doing?
do you eat the skin? What are you eating on it? They never knew what a banana was. And then they had a very, very bad voyage. The weather was terrible. They thought they were going to die. The ship was going to sink. And Grandma said that the Jewish people, they were really, really howling and crying, I die, and then they calmed down and everything was okay. But they had, it took, I think, like 10 days, their voyage.
Wow.
And she said it was a very, very bad trip. Everyone was sick. Motion sickness as it was. And they were crowded like animals in there. They crowded everybody in there. And it's not like you have these little staterooms and 2 people to a room. Everybody was grouped together.
We weren't talking about a cruise ship.
No, that's for sure.
Do you know why Grandpa's family came over?
Grandpa, his mother, she actually didn't like children, I guess, and she was not a happy. His grandmother raised them, and so as soon as he was old enough, with his, I wouldn't call them cousins, but they would be very close friends, and they all came together. Because like I said, they had to have a sponsor to come here, and so they all had the same sponsor, and they all lived in a boarding house, and that's where Grandpa met Grandma, in the boarding house. Because you had your room and your board, and then it would be a community lunch or dinner. They all sat at the table to eat at the same time, and that's where she met Grandpa.
And then the last question I have here is, what did they enjoy about Buffalo? Why did the family stay in this area?
Well, it was very productive here. There was a lot of work. Meat slaughterhouses, work was plentiful here. So that's why they stayed here. The job opportunity. Because when they came, from the old country, they had just peanuts in their pockets. There was no money at all, so to get a job, and that's where Grandma, she worked at a German restaurant, thank God, because she knew the German language. So she fared well there. So she got a job, cooking, or she cooked in the German restaurant.
Okay.
So do you think we still have, they might be family in Poland then?
There probably is, because when Grandma died, Auntie Anna had somebody write a letter to tell them that Grandma had died. Because she had the one sister, the other Victoria, there. And then never heard any more from them. But she had like 3 sons, so I'm sure, they had married and had children, so I'm sure there's the family there.
Mm-hmm.
And Grandpa Jacob, I don't know. And Grandpa John's, I don't even know about them either, because that was not a close family, because like I said, the grandmother raised the boys. The mother had nothing. She just had the children, I guess, and that was it. She was not a good mother. Thank God they had a good grandmother, took care of them.
Do you think that life is better now than it used to be? Do you think that the world is progressing in a good way, or do you think?
Well, that's.
I know it's a can of worms.
It is. We need big changes. We're heading to a third world country if we don't straighten out here.
So, what do you think about the recent healthcare issue with Obamacare?
I don't like it at all.
Okay. What else? Tell us what else you think about what is going on in the world right now. We've got all this crisis in Africa, and there's the politics going on with Obama and Mitt Romney. I know that I think you're usually voted Democrat. That's what my dad said.
Independent.
Oh, you're
independent.
Okay.
And even when I was a Democrat, I never voted. I voted for the person, what they stood for, what I liked about them. I was not a staunch Democrat because you're a Democrat, I'm voting for it. I've never done that.
Did you usually vote the same as your husband? Did you talk about
We
it?
talked about it. Grandpa, he looked everything. So I went by his recommendations. So we don't want him because of this or that. And he looked at everything, every angle. But at that time, there were not the problems there are today.
Mm-hmm.
Before it was just education, health, and now there's so much in there. And we don't even have good candidates. That is our problem. I mean, I don't want Obama, and I'm not really completely happy with Romney, but he would be my choice.
So what do you think we should do to make the world better?
I really don't know. You really have to whatever you think is right. If you think the health care is good, you're for it. If you don't, fight it. Do whatever you can to get a candidate in there that will get rid of that. That is my version. I would like to get a candidate that will get rid of that.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions?
I guess, do you remember, I guess, maybe what you were doing or any of your feelings when there were major events happening, like when the Twin Towers fell or when the Berlin Wall came down or,
Or even
John F. Kennedy?
JFK, yes. We were, your father was a little guy. I was watching the window outside, and he comes, they killed the president. I said, oh, Joey, that's only, something on television. When I came in and I heard that, oh my God. So then I had to go pick up the children from school. We went to church. We got there early, so we went to church. And of course, people were gathering in church. They were crying. And I remember washing the front window that day when your dad come and said, that the president was killed. That I remember. And the Twin Towers. And Julie and I were going shopping. And I had the radio on. I said, God, that can't be. So I came back into the house and we didn't go shopping. We listened to the horrible news and watched it on television. I could not believe what we were seeing.
I tried calling you, all the phone lines were down, everything was going
Foreign-
crazy.
That's right, everything was down. Yeah.
What about Pearl Harbor?
Pearl Harbor, my brother took my mother to her cousin's house, and they were there, and we were going to go. Uncle Marty and I went with them. I went with them to pick Grandma up, and they had heard the news. Of course, they were all crying because our young sons were going to be going to the service. And you can remember I had a pink suit on that day. I remember that. Pink suit, but we went to pick her up, and of course they were all frightened. They were all frightened because they all had boys that were at the age that would be going to the service. That was Uncle Marty was the youngest of his group, and he was the first one called to the service. So but he ended up in North Africa with the tank division. So he was pretty safe.
Do you know anything in regards to the wars that Grandpa fought in? Do you know any of his experiences at all? Did he share anything?
He never talked about it. Even him losing the ship, never knew that it was friendly warfare. That never knew that. He never discussed that.
Never with you?
Mm-mm.
Were you ever interested to know? And did you?
Well, I
prompt him?
just knew that they were hit, but I thought it was enemy fire. And it was not. He had shrapnel wounds on his legs, and that. But he never discussed. Even when we went to PT reunions, the men never. They would not admit that it was friendly fire that killed so many of their boys. And there were two men that Grandpa was real good friends with. And when it came to, we sent away for All Souls Day, and he always had me enter their names for the All Souls.
Do you remember their name?
Juno was one. I can't remember the other one.
Juno?
Juno, Juno.
That was his last name?
Mm-hmm.
Did he receive any awards or recognition from his time in the service?
He had some, his medals, his silver medals or whatever. Yeah, he had the medals. I don't know if your dad has them or wherever they are. You have Grandpa's.
I have a hat and a belt.
You have his dog tag too. You have a dog tag.
Dad might.
Find out because there is still one more dog tag. But I thought you had one, Amy.
I know Steve would like to see those probably.
What?
Back to John F. Kennedy, when the first Catholic president was elected, was that a big deal for
Oh
Catholics?
my gosh, was that ever? Oh, it'll never happen. A Catholic president will never ever happen. And it was just like the first Polish Pope. I was at work, and I thought it was a joke, you know.
Was it a surprise? Was he even in the picture?
No.
That's so.
You never heard of
interesting.
Carl?
Mm-mm.
What's his?
Rap singer?
No, that's
That's the current one?
the current pope. I don't.
Oh, Pope John Paul.
Pope John Paul.
Waitula.
Carol. Oh, it's crazy last name.
Yeah. So that wasn't
can't
even on the radar. Just so surprised.
No. He was picked by the Blessed Mother. Because he was an exceptional man. Everybody. We had, on Wilkes Avenue, this Italian family, and they were staunch, you know, Pope had to be Italian. And he eventually was an optometrist, and he used to come to Fisher Price at night to, you know, for exams and everything else. And he said to me himself, he said, I never believed it, he said, but it couldn't been a better man than Pope John.
Just remember that just even when he died, people just from all over the world, all different faiths, all different everywhere.
Everyone had respect for him.
I cried.
He was respected for, you know, I think everybody did, honey. He was just so well. He was
It's so sweet.
a people person. He could mediate with anybody. Even when he was shot, he forgave, you know. It was sad to see him go down, you know. You could see every time they showed him, and he just going down and down. But he had a good reign. He done a lot of good.
Do you remember anything about the landing on the moon?
We had probably had pictures of that, the paper. There might be even paper upstairs.
Yeah.
Because your mom, but that was another big, who would ever, it'll never happen. Never happen. And it did. And just like television, growing up, you know, there's going to be a screen, and there's people, how's that going to be? And first television said, oh my gosh, look, all you do is turn it on, and there they are. And well, we had, this is Uncle Marty, he was a funny. We had an old Victrola, a tall thing you cranked up, and he'd say, every time you do that, the people have to leave whatever they're doing, and they have to perform. And we're kids, and we're thinking, oh, this is bad, you know, we're gonna have music at 6 o'clock. They're eating dinner. They gotta stop everything. So we laugh, think about it now, you know.
The landing on the moon reminded me, I had asked you years back about when the Russians put the satellite up for the first time and how scared you all were.
Right.
And then the alarms, like during the Cold War you had. Do you want to talk about that?
The alarms going off?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know too much
Remember?
about that. That's
You said they would just go off at any time, like a
well,
practice. And you were
it
so
could be
scared.
middle of the night,
Yeah.
and then they called them wardens. They would walk the streets. Like the man next door was a warden, and as soon as that went off, all the lights had to be turned off, and they would walk, you know, the street to see if anything was going on. But that part was frightening.
Well, just one last question. Are you proud of your children and grandchildren?
I am very proud, very blessed. They're all good kids. They're not in trouble. They're happy. We have a couple incidents, but health incidents, but otherwise everybody else is faring very, very well. And we're going to have a priest in the family, which is...
Everyone's excited about that.
Well, thanks very much. We love you a lot, and we're really glad you did this for us.
Thank you, Grandma.
Love you all too.
And thanks to Annie for putting this all together and for everyone for submitting your questions.